Good morning, all. We're live on YouTube. Welcome to the quick take, the quickest quick take of all time. Stephen Sheldrake alongside me. How you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, this quick take might be even quicker than Nathaniel Chalobah getting sent off yesterday.
Let's just go straight into it. Nat, I call him Natty Chabs. From now on, I'm never calling him Natty Chabs ever again. Nathaniel Chalobah sent off after, what was it, 6 minutes or maybe 8 minutes after the VAR check. Um, Given as a yellow card, the tackle, and then Mike Dean, who was running VAR, decided to tell, I think it was Darren England, to go and look at the screen. But I think the challenge was a red. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Upon initial viewing, it was really rash. And then, yeah, when he's going over to VAR, he's going to give it because it's being slowed down. It's always going to look even worse. And it was always going to be a red. And it's just a huge sense of disappointment because, Nathaniel Chalobah had a lot of critics, rightly or wrongly so. And today was his chance to show that he has a shot in this team. Paini is going to get to 10 yellows. He's going to get back in that team or at least come off the bench. And he's proved he's completely blown it. And it really shows the lack of depth we have in that position. So, whilst the transfer window was relatively successful, we are lacking quite a lot of depth in certain areas, aren't we?
Yeah, and obviously Palhinha will be back for West Ham, but obviously Nathaniel Chalobah will be out for 3 games. And there's a lot of talk about will he ever play for Fulham again after that? Given it was his big opportunity, can he impress in that role without Paulinho alongside Harrison Reed? And he's blown it after 6 minutes. A rash challenge that didn't need to be made. And he's completely messed it up for himself. And what annoyed me most was that when he got sent off, he didn't seem that arsed. He
Yeah.
complained for a second with the referee, and then he just trudged off the pitch like, "Oh, that's my afternoon done. I'm off for a shower." I mean, it was quite incredible.
I mean, do you even shower after playing for 5 minutes? I don't know what they do.
The big
Uh,
debate.
yeah, that's what we'll be talking on the podcast tomorrow at length. Yeah, no, it was a shit show. Excuse my language, but it wasn't just the sending off though, which we can talk about in more detail now. But like, it was the whole kind of attitude and energy levels, and the fact that we didn't register a shot till about an hour or so, which was a dodgy toasting header. Um, it just felt like we never left the dressing room yesterday, didn't it?
Mm. I'm sure the podcast will go over individual goals in a little bit more detail, but was there anything that you saw from any of those goals that did worry you? A couple were very, very sloppy. I think the first and the third, they all sort of merge into one, really, don't they? Almiron's first goal was very, very good. Let's not take that away from him. Fantastic finish.
Amazing
And then
finish.
the fourth was more of a ball across the box, and he just tapped it in, really. But I seem to remember the first and the third were pretty poor from our end.
My concern is that when we got that red card, of course, all of us had our head in our hands, and we were like, "It's going to be one of those days." But the fact that we conceded immediately after
Mm.
was it was game over straight away. Like we didn't have to. Like just because you have 10 men doesn't mean it has to be. You have to lose the game in that fashion. And for me, the worst thing was, I think, the attitude. And I mean, and just the marking in general. Mbabu really not marking his man for that header for that first goal. Players not following up, chasing up the ball. Newcastle just winning every ball, and it was just awful. Really, a lot of questions now to be asked of the team and the strength of it. Thankfully, I think Leno was actually quite good, considering all things considered. If
Mm.
we're going to look at positives, and Cabano's assist was really nice for Bobby. So that was a small silver lining. But I think one of the most interesting things about yesterday was how different that squad was, starting 11. And I think a lot of us actually had a little bit of excitement. Changing up at left back, having Dan James start, but it just didn't prove fruitful. Maybe they need more time to gel. Of course, Chalobah being the big change there, that just didn't pay off at all. So.
No. And then Mitrovic, of course, coming off just before half time is hugely worrying. It didn't look too serious, and I'm wondering whether because the game was pretty much out of grasp at 2-0 down, or was it 3-0? I think it was 3-0 down at the time. Silva went, okay, we'll rest him up for the next game and bring on Vinicius to get a run out. So maybe there is something where he might be back, a situation where he might be back next week against West Ham. Also, Lieback and Zoa went off as well after. And I always find this quite worrying. It happened with Robinson as well. When you get yourself injured, you try and play on, and then you get subsequently, you feel like you can't play on, and then you have to come off. So, couple of worrying things to just mount the misery on Fulham. It was a miserable afternoon, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully we have a little bit of a decent gap between yesterday and West Ham, which is now on Sunday. The way I interpreted the Mitrovic injury was that he thought he could give it a go, and it turns out his ankle was playing up, so he's not quite ready. But I feel like a few days rest, and then I think he'll be okay for West Ham. That's the impression I got. Some people online are like, Mitrovic out for the season. I'm like, well, wait, why are you hearing that information?
Mm.
So I think he'll be all right, but hey, we're not doctors, are we? And just a general injury crisis. Yeah, that was very weird and concerning. We've been very lucky with our medical team and our injuries so far. So this is a bit out of the blue. I mean, it is really challenging our squad depth, and you think with the signings we've made that we'd have suitable cover. Um, I believe the squad is good enough to manage the injuries, but I guess we'll see next Sunday, really, won't we?
Yeah, you talk about suitable cover, and then you have people flying into tackles and getting themselves sent off after 6 minutes of the game. It just doesn't help any sort of situation.
No.
I mean, like I said, the pobble going on Newcastle and what they did against us. But is there anything you could take from this apart from Bobby Reed scoring? Anything you can take and go, oh, that was quite good. I don't like you said, Leno was good, but apart from that, we were pretty shoddy, weren't we?
It is a challenging one, Jack. It's a tough question because yesterday was just so concerning for so many reasons. And I think Fulham fans, we just need to brush it aside as a bad day at the office and move on and never talk about it. I tell you what was positive: seeing half of Van to Deck in the cottage, and Deck seemed to be having a great time. So that's always good, right?
Oh yeah, I did see that. And obviously there were fans of the Riverside stand and the upper tier. Hopefully they enjoyed the day out for maybe about 5 minutes before everything went wrong. But and also Newcastle scored two other goals which were deemed offside. We were quite open. They came at us, you know, attack wave after wave, and it really could have been worse. And damage limitations, we only conceded one in that second half, but it could have been a lot worse for Fulham, couldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it could have been a lot worse. I don't really know what you do with Marco Silva at half time after that. It is, everyone just wants to get home on that bus. But the fact that we managed to keep it respectable and at least get a goal at the end, was positive. And I wasn't sure Cabana was going to make much of an impact, but actually he did well to find the space, and that was a really lovely cross. Um, and well done to Bobby because he always seems to chirp up with a goal every now and then, doesn't he?
Mm.
So yeah, it's good for him. That was a positive. It really is hard to find others. I mean, I think Diop was actually okay coming on. Maybe worthy of a start. Maybe we need to mix it up a little bit. I don't like to imagine Ream or Toaston losing their place, but maybe it's time to shake it up a little bit.
And final question from me: is this going to be the start of a downfall, or is it just a blip, an off day, a bad day at the office, and we go again at West Ham and recover this? Because the fixtures we've got coming up are very favourable in our position. It'd be a shame to go and throw it all away right now.
Definitely, no. I think it is just a blip. When you have a formula and you've got a manager like Marco, and look at how well he's done so far, there's no reason why we should suddenly crash and burn. Um, Talking of burning, I don't know how, but we made Dan Burn look like the fastest player on the pitch yesterday. I didn't even know he could play left back like that. Oh my goodness.
Dan James couldn't win a race against him, could
Yeah,
he?
and that was another annoying thing about Dan James is a lot of people say he can run, but he can't do anything else, and that,
Mm.
that seemed to be the case yesterday. But I'm sure Marco will sort him out. But yeah, like you say, Jack, favourable run of fixtures. Um, we've put ourselves in a position where we can afford to lose 2 or 3 games and then pick ourselves back up. So that's really positive. These next 5 games are very favourable. Even if we nick a couple of wins and lose 3, that'll be more than enough to keep our head above the water, and in a good position. So it's still positive. These things happen. We move on. We pretend it never happened, and look forward to the beautiful new West Ham stadium. I haven't been there yet, so looking forward to it. But my understanding is that it's got nothing on Upton Park. So yeah.
Yeah, that's, especially West Ham fans, when they first went there, they said this is nothing compared to Upton Park. But I think they're sort of used to it now. Funnily enough, a year ago today, we lost 4-1 to Coventry, and that was probably the lowest point of last season.
Wow.
Hopefully, it's the lowest point of this season as well. But, you never know, because we're going to be playing much trickier opposition as well. And that's going to be that for today. Stephen, thanks so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
It's been a tricky one, but myself and Joe Sanson will be back on Wednesday to sink our teeth into another episode of the Jack and Joe Show. We're going to dissect the game a little bit more and talk West Ham as well. And of course, podcasts will be out tomorrow. And everyone, stay safe. Enjoy your Sunday, whatever you do. Obviously, Manchester Derby and a couple of decent sporting events on today. So take care and, well, come on, Fulham.